And if you wish to speak on an agenda item, you sign up right over here with Mr. James. Have a roll call, please.
Ex officio Marthouse,
Here.
Director Tozan,
Here.
Director Ramirez,
Here.
Director Nutting,
Here.
Director James,
Here.
Director Ertel,
Here.
Director Becker,
Here.
Secretary Sislo here, Treasurer Rayner, here. Vice President Gillen,
Here.
President Knobloch.
Here.
Have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Please make sure everybody, your mics are on, that you speak directly into the mic. Do the Pledge of Allegiance now, Mr. Becker.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have the approval of minutes from September 20th.
May I have a motion to approve those minutes, please?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Second. Thank you.
Motion was made by Mr. Tozan, second by Ms. Ertel. Any comments? Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes of September 20th, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. Next, we have a motion to amend or approve the meeting agenda. Anybody want to make that motion? We have to do something, guys.
I'll make the motion to approve it.
Okay, Mr. Gillen made the motion to approve it. Mr. Becker seconded it. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, everyone in favor, raise your right hand, please. I think that was unanimous. Okay, we don't have any presentations. Here's the president's report. We've been serving between 2,500 and 3,000 customers in the club just about every Wednesday through Sunday for the last couple of months. So we thank everyone for their continued support. There are different activities going on just about every night. The POA recently sponsored or co-sponsored community events such as a Balance in Preventing Falls seminar, Coffee with a Cop, Night Out Against Crime, Medicare enrollment seminars, a blood drive, an upcoming nutrition seminar, charbroiled oysters night, Chateaubriand night, a wild game evening meal in November. We have another bourbon and cigars night. We have trunk or treat this Tuesday night. We have they do need some additional cars and trucks who might want to participate in that. It's on the circle in front of the clubhouse building. We have a Halloween party on Friday, September the 29th. So we've got a whole bunch of activities going on. Everyone's encouraged to participate. In addition, we have a Fall Fest on Saturday, September the 23rd from 10 to 4. October, I'm sorry, the 23rd from 10 to 4. We'll have various vendors and activities for just about every age group there. Later that day, there's a special shrimp boil. You do have to purchase a ticket ahead of time so we know how much shrimp to buy. You can purchase a ticket at the concierge desk in the lobby of the club during normal business hours. We have some residents who still say they don't know what activities are going on ahead of time. The best way to find out everything, sign up for e-blast from the POA or at least check the POA's Facebook page on a regular basis. Thank you. Next, we don't have any committee reports tonight. We have the general manager's report. Mr. Habity.
Good evening, everybody. As I typically do for these monthly meetings, is present you with a packet of information. And enclosed in the packet, I'll just go over a few highlights. The September financials proved positive, showing a total positive variance of $138,000. Year-to-date report also shows a significant positive variance, primarily due to the bank settlement, People's Bank, and also the PP loan forgiveness. We also have learned that there is a program being offered by the government as it relates to an employee retention program, and I think that's later on your agenda. It's my understanding that the company that provides the service to research and discover and provide the information, whereby it then becomes eligible for funding back to the POA. That there's, of whatever that amount is, the person who's doing the work gets 25%. So 25% of whatever that number is better than not pursuing it. In addition to the financials, the amenity use statistic data is available in your packet. Collections report, employee hire report, and also I enclosed the assumptions and the preliminary budget for 2022. I think that we're getting closer to calling it somewhat official. It's still in the preliminary stage, and I look forward to each of you having a chance to review it in detail and get back to us with your comments. I don't know what the board's preference is, but we will pursue reaching a point where it's determined acceptable by you in whatever time frame you decide. So aside from that, the patrons have been spectacular. The activity at the club, support from our property owners, not only in paying dues, which is necessary, but also supporting the club in food and beverage, golf activity, tennis activity, pickleball activity. Understand there's someone here in the audience who's quite an avid pickleball player, and he's challenged me to a match, so I'm gonna have to get up on that sport. But anyway, things are well, and we're looking forward to making it better. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Or does anybody have any questions, Mr. Abney? Okay, well, thank you. The next thing, we have POA members to speak on agenda items. How many people do we have tonight?
4.
Okay. Who's the first one?
First one is David Maples.
Okay, Mr. Maples, you're up. Remember, you have 3 minutes. There's a little timer here. When it gets to 1 minute, a green light, 2 minutes, a green light will come on, 2:30, a yellow light, 3 minutes, wrap it up.
Okay. My name is David Maples. I live at 2375 Calejo Way. I am a pilot and a resident of the airport. The agenda item we're talking about is the transfer of the traffic circle at the end of Airport Road to the city, and I'm here to tell you why. There's a strip of land north of that road. There's about 6 acres, and it is industrial zone, and it's been sitting there for about 50, 60 years, ever since the first plat. Nothing's been done with it. Why? Well, the circle belongs to the POA instead of the city, like most every other roadway was. Because of this, there's a very, very narrow area that you can come in off the road to develop this property. And the city has told me that subdivision requires roads. It requires thousands of foot of road, thousands of foot of utilities and stuff like that. So this is set undeveloped. What do we want? We want T-hangers. We want businesses to come into here and provide aviation services. Mr. Fletcher has a really great radio shop, and he does maintenance. There is more. There is paint. There is interiors. There are thousands of people waiting in this area for these T-hangers to be built. So that's what we have. Why we should transfer it. If you transfer it, the city road touches the majority of the property. Doesn't require subdivision. You come straight off the road with the utilities. You don't have to build a road. The city still controls the road. They still control access to it for aircraft, special events, all this other stuff, as we were discussing. The road still stays. What does the POA get out of it? The POA gets to charge dues, now for businesses. I feel those dues, as somebody who would like to buy some of this land, should be proportional to what I pay as a resident. I pay roughly $600 a year on half an acre. If I buy an acre lot, this could be $1,200 a year from the business. Here's a different part that you haven't heard yet. These businesses have an active interest in this runway and this taxiway. So instead of just paying their dues and whatever, they're available for more maintenance, more projects in as far as enhancing these amenities. Aircraft on the field means more fuel sales. This is where we get our budget. Aircraft on the field means possible grants, possible other business interests. All this comes with opening this property up. That's what this is all about. Now, those are concerns. What about somebody coming in and putting in a different type of business? All of this land is AE flood zone. You must elevate, just like my house, 10 foot up in the air. There's lots of places in Diamondhead that you can build a business. You don't have to do that. None of them is an advantage of being on a taxiway or being next to an airport. This is a dead-end road.
Okay, could you please wrap it up?
Okay, this is a dead-end road. It's a residential road. The only people who have really interest in these lots are aviation businesses. So in consideration for that and the development, I hope you guys take that into consideration.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
Next, Mr. James.
J. Best Day.
Mr. Patsy,
Hey, buddy.
you're on.
By the way, thank you guys for what you do. I know a lot of times it's a rough, it's a rough thing to have a target on your back. Anyway, thank you for trying to expand the airport. My questions and concerns about the circle is that is where we park aircraft. If we take that circle away from the incorporated part of the airport apron area, we will have area space to park 4 airplanes. I have pictures where we've had over 70 here for the 2003 bicentennial. If we eliminate that parking, we're not going to have anybody come in and out. I am absolutely 100% more for T-hangers. We made that same proposal to the board in 2010 with prepaid people who would pay for it. But they weren't located in that position because the Purcell Corporation was not willing to sell us that land at that time. Maybe that's changed. We have if they are given transfer to the city, either we do it all or none. Let's don't divide the baby. Solomon told us not to do that. Let's don't divide the baby. If you want the city to take the airport, that's terrific. If you want to leave the POA take care of it, that's terrific too. Let's just not have 2 masters on one little piece of land. Do I think it's necessary to have that strip of land access to hangars? No. I have a T-hangar at Lakefront Airport. I actually go on to the airport and drive on their property to get to my T-hangar. So I don't have to have a special road. If they put a road on this side, we're not going to be able to secure that road to the airport. It's going to be unsecured public road to the T-hangars. Also, there's this other little incident before we put any votes we need to research. It's called the Special Warranty Deep South Deed that was filed September the 9th, 1985 with the Purcell Corporation, Book 97, page 601, that states that it takes an 85% vote of the entire Diamondhead POA people to change that use of that airport or to transfer that airport. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Who's next, Mr. James?
Paulette Snyder.
Paulette Snyder Gilbert. I'm at 23103 Coelho Way. First off, really thank you all. I've invited each of you down to not my hangar, but actually the Hortons hangar for breakfast one morning with an invite to come back. We do have a unique situation down on the south side. My husband and I just participated in a nationwide program, a commercial showing that the city of Diamondhead, community of Diamondhead, has 3 ways of access. We're the only place here by land, by sea, and by air. It is now being aired on television right now. It's really a cool thing. You have to check it out for yourself. That's not why I'm here. Why I'm here is I think we're jumping the gun on this. We had a proposal, as Botsy said, in 2000, I believe it was 10, where we had T-hangars set up, we had investors, and we had people ready to go ahead and commit to 20-year leases. After the original bank note, we would have actually seen a return of nearly $7,000, and if you look back through your notes from a long time ago, you'll find this information. So yes, T-hangars are definitely a major demand. I'm a real estate agent here in the area, and it's not unusual for me to get inquiries, even on my own house, which is not for sale, for T hangars, a place to store their plane. Can I buy, can I build, what can I do? So yes, T hangars are a really great demand. We can make good money. The POA can make great money. The city can make great money. Putting it on between A and B, taxiways A and B, I think is a big mistake because it backs up to some of these people's houses if you put in industry. So transferring the circle, well, you are opening up any of those planes that are out there that are tied down, when there are some tied down. You're giving the public the right to drive by and be near these planes. Do we want that liability? Does the city want that liability? Have they even looked into it? That's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. James, who's next?
We have one more, Jim Jelinski.
Mr. Jelinski?
I'm Jim Jelinski, 2346 Airport Drive, been there since 1987. And first, I appreciate what you guys do and the guff you put up with. I'm not for or against building the T hangars or, aviation-related development on that piece of property they're talking about. I'd be vehemently opposed if some other type of commercial development came in, whether it was any kind of like office building or material transfer or who knows what. Please make it for aviation-related, aviation support. And my other thing would be to take your time, look through this very, very carefully, and come to a good, fair, a decent agreement that everybody's happy with. Can't please everybody, but try to make it as fair as you possibly can. And that's all I've got to say.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I thank you guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we don't have any unfinished business, so now we go to the regular agenda. It's motion 2021-34, a motion to transfer the Airport Circle Roadway and associated easements to the city of Diamondhead. Anybody like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Ms. Sislo makes a motion. Do we have a second? Well,
I'll second it for discussion.
okay, Mr. Ramirez seconds it for discussion. Okay, Ms. Sislo, you're first then. Speak.
I've been pondering this concept as we've been talking about it and trying to understand, and I have a couple of areas of concern. One is the roadway itself is a liability to our organization. It's something that demands work and cost and repair, and it's not really an amenity, the roadway in and of itself. So to me, it is something that doesn't need to be within our purview. However, hearing the conversations of what everybody's had to say, I'm concerned that our motion is too blanket. It doesn't put enough caveats to watch for the details that we want to make sure happen. Can commercial property pay POA dues? Has that been looked into? How can we develop an agreement with the city that everyone still has access and safety is assured? We don't want people's cars driving on the airport property, and there would need to be a negotiation to make sure that would never happen. So I just need to express my opinion that we probably need to work a little more carefully on the details of this motion before we pass it.
Okay, Mr. Ramirez, I believe you seconded.
So yes, I agree. We had said that we were going to table this last month and get back and talk more in detail about it. And I haven't heard any more details about it other than what came out in the minutes or the agenda. And so my suggestion at this point would be to table it again and let's talk about it. Let's get together and talk about it as a group and then move forward after that.
Okay, any other questions? Sorry, not right now. Any other questions?
Okay.
Mr. Becker?
Yes, as there's been some concern that's been voiced tonight and also today and in the last few days about members who live on the south side about this. And I think we owe them the opportunity to speak to them in an open forum where they can all express their opinions before we pass this.
Okay, they did have the opportunity tonight now, but we'll just go on. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Mr. Gillen?
The reason that I asked for it to be tabled last time was because, as Lloyd has pointed out, is we don't have anything here telling us what we're going to be doing with this. We have no agreement with the city as far as who's going to take care of replacing any of the restrictions that keep people from driving out on the runway. If that gets taken down to put in a roadway, who's going to pay for that? We need to have an agreement on that. We don't have any agreements on some of the other things that you and I and some of the other people have talked about, and those need to be hammered out. And all of these people that live on the south side need to be comfortable with what we're doing. As I said last month, there's no reason that this might not work both ways for us in a very positive manner. But until we have some of these things ironed out, especially the thing with security on the runway, I've had a report today of somebody driving their golf carts out on the runway. You want to have a real problem, you open that up where people can drive a car out there, and you really got a problem. If you've ever seen anybody got hit by a propeller from an airplane, it's not a very pretty sight. So I guess I'm asking people who have been driving out on the runway, get off of it, and please stay off of it, because it could cause a problem. You think that the man coming in can add power and go around, that's fine. What if he's on an emergency approach and doesn't have any power? He's coming down. So there's a bunch of things we need to work out before we pass this, and I agree with Lloyd, we ought to table it.
Dr. Nutting?
It seems to me that we should form a committee with the people that have aviation interests and south side interest to look into this and come to recommendations of what can be done. I mean, of course, there's a fix. We just haven't figured it out yet. And if we put the knowledgeable people together with a couple of board people and come up with a fix and then present a detailed thing that's going to make, as that gentleman said, almost everybody happy. So it seemed to me we should get some of this side, some of this side, and some of this side together and come up with something before we jump the gun on this.
Anyone else?
So there was also a gentleman by the name of Mr. Sean Watts who sent us an email, and I would hope that he would be interested in getting together with the group and discussing his concerns.
Okay, just for your information, I got a call this afternoon from a man who was on planning and zoning for the city council for a long time, and he told me he just tries to stay up with things that are going on in here. He said, now he's not an attorney, but he was on that planning and zoning. He said, I've looked at that, and after closely studying the ownership of the land around the circle, there's already, or actually, sufficient land for someone to build a driveway starting on Airport Drive, so that goes around the outside of the circle and could get to the land that's already zoned for commercial purposes. And that land is actually owned by Diamondhead Properties, which is a spinoff from the Purcell Corporation. So we're actually kind of now, if that is correct, that's the only way I can answer that. If that is correct, we're also in a situation now, if we don't transfer it, you still can get to the land. It might be more expensive or whatever to get to it, but that land is open for commercial development. Okay, somebody had talked about building a motorcycle shop down there or something like that. Okay, there's somebody also said, since it's zoned, that AE zone or whatever it is down there, you've got to go up 10 or 20 feet. And I believe, if I'm correct, that the only ones that have an exception to that are if they're aviation-related businesses. So I don't think that's something that we necessarily, from my point of view, have to really worry about. I don't think that somebody's going to open a tire shop down at the end. Now, if we don't want to do this, I would suggest this. I wouldn't table it, because table it means it automatically comes up and it's just sitting there. If you want to form some kind of a group or something to actually look at this, from my point of view, I don't want to spend money with attorneys at this point, okay, because that gets really expensive quick. So I would, if we can, you want to get a group together and what's the word here, expound about different things, discuss it. I don't have a problem with that, because I think it's pretty obvious that if you had to take a vote tonight, it would not pass, okay? So if you want to do that, I have no problem, but I ask you, my suggestion is, don't table it, because it just automatically keeps coming up, okay? Unless we table it until a certain date. You can do that, all right? So, thoughts?
So would that be to maybe form a committee dedicated for that specific purpose?
I guess that would be my thought, if you want to do that.
Well, we can run it, I was just gonna say that, we can run it through the aviation committee and work on it from that standpoint and try to get the interested parties together and go from there.
Right,
So
so
we-
Nancy made the motion, I think Nancy has to withdraw the motion. Not table it, but withdraw the motion.
think
I was
that
going to ask if it's best to withdraw it, or should I amend it to say a motion to create a committee to determine the value of transferring the.
Well, we already have an airport or the
Okay.
Southside Committee, so they
So-
can bring some people in,
They can make a
if you want to do that. Pardon?
They can make a subcommittee
Right.
from
Right.
that.
Well, that,
Just deal with this
and add
issue.
somebody that, from here, whoever has interest also. But Gary and I are on that committee, and so is Ricky Shepherd with the city. So there's pretty good representation.
Because there's also the city has not voted to accept it, even if we were to do it. Okay, that is on their agenda, I think, in the future possibly. So we're dealing with a whole lot of different things. So do you want to withdraw your motion? Miss-
Yes, I will withdraw the motion then.
Okay, I think what we can do then is just direct the city manager, the general manager, to direct the airport committee, the Southside Committee, to deal with this, come up and get people from here together, and discuss it, get people from the city, get everybody together, try to come up with a solution, but you have to have a deadline also. Okay? We don't want to just, I've been on committees just like most of you have, and it kind of just takes on a life of its own. What, Pardon?
Before the December meeting?
We can try.
if we can't figure out in 2 months whether this is worthwhile doing or not,
Well, it's.
we have a
it's
problem.
Getting some of the important people involved, but I don't see why we shouldn't.
I'm sorry, miss, I can't do that in this part of the meeting, okay? Anybody else have any comments?
Just one other comment. If the interested parties that were here would sign up their name and numbers, so when that committee gets together, we'll have access to get in touch with you, would probably be helpful. Vice President Gillen, you're in charge of that committee. What do you think of that?
Stuart, I have some of the people's names and numbers on
Okay.
South.
Okay.
Our next meeting is December the 20th, so I would suggest that we try to have that done.
Well, we have
That's 2
November.
months.
We have a November meeting.
We have a November meeting.
Wait.
Maybe we can
Yeah.
have it ready for them, but
Okay,
The
so
deadline should be the
yeah,
December meeting.
let's try to have a deadline. in
at the
December.
the very latest.
Yeah,
So the pressure's on you,
me.
okay, to get it done.
Okay.
Anybody else have any other questions? Okay, so that's the way we'll handle that one. The next thing is a motion to progress in the vendor bid proposal process for the replacement of the kitchen flooring. Would somebody like to make a motion on that?
I make that motion.
Ms. Ertel makes the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
That was Dr. Nutting seconds. Ms. Ertel?
Right, the kitchen floor in the club needs to be replaced, and they want to move forward with the bid process, getting qualified vendors in that can do the demolition and put the new flooring down.
I'm sorry, who seconded? Dr. Nutting, your comments now?
I have no further comments. It needs doing, and we should just get on with it and get the bids in and move forward.
Any other comments?
I just have a question. It says estimate only. We don't have bids yet? No contract?
They want the approval so that we can move forward with this. They don't want to
Okay.
move forward and then find out they're not going to be able to do it.
And the problem that we found out is the company that does the flooring will not do the demolition part and taking it all apart. So we have to get a group to do that. Then we have to hire the people who put down this special floor. We have no choice. We've got to replace it. I mean, it's a health and safety issue, so that's not even a question. Okay, so anybody else on that one?
So the demolition, removal, and disposal is almost the same cost as the installation and application of the new floor. Is it possible for us to search for other opportunities for us to maybe save a little bit of money as far as the cost there?
From what I understand, that particular new floor is some kind of an epoxy that they put down, and there's only one or two companies around that do that. I don't know that for a fact. Okay, and they must have talked to him and said that's what it was. I was shocked when I found out that the company who puts the floor down wouldn't do the demolition part, because you got to remove all the equipment out of there. So we have to hire a storage bin. We would do this sometime between between around Christmas and New Year's, because that's the time of the year when the club is used the least. So we would have to also come up with a way to handle, there's one or two parties that might be at that time, and maybe food trucks to handle it, the other thing. So this is just, do we want to do this? Guys, we don't really have a choice. So whether or not the cost is this much, I don't know.
So I understand we really don't have a choice yet, so we really need to do this, but, I mean, I'd like to see an estimate in writing that says this is what it's going to be, as opposed to just kind of what we have here.
So this is, I believe all this is asking for is the bid process to begin it. So that's going to answer your question.
And that's fine. If that's what it is, then that's fine.
We're gonna get different bids. We're gonna get different bids from the companies and go
Okay.
through that whole process.
Then I'm good
This is
with
just
that.
an estimate of what the overall project's gonna be.
Okay.
And we want the approval going forward.
Okay.
Versus getting it all done and then it can't be done or whatever.
Yeah, the floor
Okay,
Lloyd,
I'm good.
the floor Lloyd is gonna be, like he said, an epoxy with a non-slip surface. So it's cheaper and faster to go back with that than putting all new tiles of some type down.
Tiles in the kitchen, as I have found out, are a pain in the rear end, okay, to deal with. So, any other comments? Okay, well, we have the motion in a second, so all in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, it's unanimous, so that motion is approved. The third thing is we have a motion to retain a consultant to prepare documents for employee retention tax credits. Someone like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Becker makes the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
That was Ms. Ertel seconds it. Mr. Becker?
Upon advice from our controller, we found out that this tax credit for retaining employees is available to the Property Owners Association. We are fairly certain that we will qualify for it, but we can't guarantee that on our own 100%. These people will take on the task and work up the data, provide the application, and only collect money from us out of the funds that the POA collects. I understand it's several $100,000, and their portion would be 25%, meaning we keep 75%. It's our opinion in the accounting department that we don't have the wherewithal to do this without the consultant, so it seems like nothing but a win-win for the POA.
Any other questions? Well, I can comment, the POA does not stand any chance of losing any money on this situation. And this company, from what I've read, they will also provide the legal, the attorneys and so forth to deal with it if that's needed. Any other questions? Okay, so all in favor of approving this motion, please raise your hand. Okay, once again, it's unanimous, so that motion is approved. Do we have anybody who wanted to speak on a non-agenda item?
We do not.
Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make
that.
the motion to adjourn.
Second.
We'll let Mr. James tonight. Okay, do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you.